So the All Blacks have named their squad for the Northern Tour. I've got the 32 players here on the board who have been named for the Northern Tour, and I will go through the additional 19 who have been named for the November 3 game in Japan. So you guys can have a look at all the names, kind of see who's there, who's not, who you think deserves to be there, who might be a bit lucky. The 32, the kind of core squad, is pretty familiar news. It's not that much of a shake-up, really. I mean, Dane Coles, Nathan Harris, and Codie Taylor, I think pretty much kind of to be expected. Dane Coles' comeback from injury is a welcome one for the All Blacks to see where he's at and see whether it's him or Taylor who is the number 1 guy in the number 2 jersey. Props, Franks, Laulala, Moody, Tuipulotu, and Tuungafasi. I think pretty much the core that's been there with the addition of Laulala. One guy who probably might feel a bit burned having just been with the All Blacks is Angus Ta'avao and perhaps also Tim Perry, but I'll get to them in a minute. Locks, pretty much the first 4 that you'd expect. Scott Barrett, Brodie Retallick, Patrick Tuipulotu, and Sam Whitelock. I'm not reading these in any particular order, just the order that they were listed. So yeah, I mean, Barrett, Retallick, and Whitelock are the key 3 guys. And Tuipulotu, I think, makes up that depth that's needed, so it's good to have him fighting fit. And I think kind of if there was one benefit of having Brodie Retallick injured, it was to see Patrick Tuipulotu back at the top level, and not disappointing, because the guy can be hit and miss, and I'm a Blues fan when I say that. Loose forwards, good news for a couple of guys in particular. This is perhaps where we get kind of the more interesting news. Vaea Fifita is back, and he is listed as a loose forward. The All Blacks kind of said when they didn't pick him for the Rugby Championship that he'd been playing too much lock with the Hurricanes and they wanted him in the loose. They have named him in the loose, so that's good news. They must have been impressed with what he's been doing for Wellington. The biggest bolter of them all is Dalton Papali'i, who's been playing for Auckland in the Mitre 10 Cup, loose forward. Talented young prospect. When I did my All Blacks C-Team video, a lot of guys called for him to be added. Yep, the All Blacks agree with you. So he's in the squad. Looking forward to see how he goes. Kieran Reid is captain, Ardie, Savea, Liam, Squire, and Matt Todd. Squire, hopefully he's fit and raring to go. For Matt Todd, it's an interesting one because they have granted him a special dispensation. He shouldn't be eligible because he is playing in Japan at the moment. But basically, because of his long service to the country and whatnot, they decided that they would pick him, which I think is probably a wise move, and probably finally giving that guy some of the props that he deserves. Because I mean, the main reason he would have taken this contract in Japan is because he's kind of been on that fringe. So it's good for the All Blacks to kind of go the extra mile for him. In the backs, TJ Perenara, Aaron Smith, and Toiroa Tahuriorangi. That seems to be their favourite 3 combination, and they've stuck with that. First 5/8s, and they have listed all these 3 as first 5s. It's Beauden, Barrett, Damian, McKenzie, and Richie Mo'unga. So Damian is still listed as a first 5. That's where they see him, and I guess that's where he wants to be. Midfield, Codie, Goodhue, Lienert-Brown, and Sonny Bill. Again, pretty much their standard ones from the Rugby Championship. No Laumape, I guess, is probably the main guy who would feel a bit aggrieved, if anybody, but again, get to him in a minute. Outside backs, Geordie Barrett, Rieko Ioane, Naholo, and Ben Smith. So there's not really an experimental feel about this lineup. This is the All Blacks' strongest team, basically. They're not... I mean, often you see it in the Northern Tours, they use this as a chance to take a handful of uncapped guys, and I will get to some of the uncapped guys. I mean, Dalton Papali'i is there. But for the most part, it's a pretty experienced and reliable All Blacks team that's going to be looking to sweep when they go. But the 19 players who they have got in this extended lineup is this is for Japan. So for Amua and Coltman are the hookers. So Amua, I don't think he's been capped yet, but he's a guy with a lot of promise, and he's been playing really well in the Mitre 10. The props, Toiroa Lomax. I believe he's Australian qualified as well, so he is a big loss for the Wallabies in terms of the All Blacks have decided to snap it up. Ruben O'Neill, Tim Perry, and Angus Ta'avao. So Perry and Ta'avao obviously on the fringes there. Both have played for the All Blacks. O'Neill has not. Luke Romano is the backup, or the extended squad, I guess, lock, which perhaps indicates a bit of like when you see a lot of these other guys I'm going to name, there's a lot of uncapped guys, and Luke Romano is the opposite of that. He's a veteran. So the fact that there's no young guy coming through in that position is perhaps one area of concern if you're looking at the All Blacks in terms of depth for youth, because I mean Whitelock is probably the closest to 30 of the existing locks. Retallick I think it's like 26, maybe 27. Barrett and Tuipulotu. Yeah, none of them are 19, 20-year-olds, but I guess locks are more likely to develop a bit later in their career, in their age-wise. Loose forwards. Jackson Himopo, Gareth Evans, who's a big deserved call-up because he's been playing really well in the Mitre 10 and in Super Rugby. Dylan Hunt, who's been in this kind of wider All Blacks framework before. Luke Whitelock. Someone was going to miss out in the initial 32-man squad, and I guess it's Fifita in, Papali'i and Luke Whitelock out, so he's got to be feeling a bit of burn there. Disappointing for him. He got sick during the Rugby Championship and missed one of his chances to kind of cement a spot, so no luck for that guy. Halfbacks, Drummond and Hall, I think pretty deserved for both of those guys. There would be a lot who would argue Tahuriorangi hasn't done enough at Super Rugby. That should be one of these guys, or perhaps Brad Weber, but the All Blacks see some potential into Toiroa, and he played well when he did play for the All Blacks, so trust in their judgment, I guess, but it's good to see Hall and Drummond get a call-up. First five is Brett Cameron gets a call. I would have thought Mitch Hunt, but hey, again, All Blacks know what they're doing. Another youngster. Midfielders Laumape and Matt Proctor. Matt Proctor's one is kind of deserved. Laumape, again, called up and then got injured, so unfortunate for him that, when you get that chance, ideally you want to go on a run and try to cement your spot in that jersey, but when you just get injured yourself, it's not ideal. Outside backs, George Bridge has been a form player for Super Rugby for a couple of years now. Havili and Niki Milner-Skudder. So, I mean, Vince Arso's out, injured still. I think he's back next month from injury. Duffy's obviously not here. No Ben Lamb, even though he's been doing pretty well in Mitre 10. So, yeah. Still plenty of other guys who did miss out. For the schedule itself, it's the All Blacks versus the Wallabies on October 27th, and then the All Blacks versus Japan in Tokyo on November 3rd. So those are the games that we will hopefully see some of these younger guys, the more inexperienced hands, and then the squad which travels to Europe are the guys on the board, the initial 32. So you've got England, Ireland, Italy. I should have mentioned that Sam Cane, Shannon Frizzell and Jordan Tafua, none of them were eligible because they're all injured. So, yeah, that's the squad. What do you guys think of it? The initial 32-man and then those other guys I mentioned, how do you think they're going to go? Like I said, a fair few youngsters there, but hopefully we'll get to see a bit of game time in them, and no doubt there'll be more shuffling with injuries and whatnot as kind of time goes by. But, yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.